I'm joined today by Beth Gainer. She's a breast cancer survivor, a mother, an English professor, writer, book author, and an artist. I invited Beth to be a guest on the educational channel here at Deep Sea Foundation so she could share slides highlighting some of the art that she hopes to have in a public space or gallery someday. I'll be attending that, I hope, if it happens, for women going through breast cancer. I was drawn to her photos, but I'm going to invite Beth to share the story behind them and tell us how her creative writing and artwork is a message that speaks to so many of us and has been a healing mechanism in her own journey. Beth, I'm just delighted to have you on the Deep Sea Foundation educational channel today. And again, I wanted to do this to highlight your artwork. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on this.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm going to let you
Mhm.
begin, Beth, by just unfolding your story, and then once you're ready, I will begin sharing your slides. But please tell us your story. We want to hear that first.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Basically, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my 30s. It was something I found in a self-exam. A mammogram had missed it, and doctor's exams had missed it. And I noticed just a slight dimple, so slight, barely noticeable during a monthly self-exam.
Mhm.
And I brought it to the attention of my doctor, and essentially he said, it's probably nothing, but let's just, get it taken care of and let's get a diagnostic mammogram, which I did. And then they found something that was really difficult to see because I have dense breast tissue. So I was diagnosed, I went through chemo and radiation. And I was kind of shocked because prior to the cancer, I was in good shape. So, ate right, exercise, things like that. So, got after I got through the breast cancer treatment, I had a lot of false scares.
Mhm.
Mammograms that said they found something, oh, but it's nothing. And then 5 years after my diagnosis, my oncologist, who always ordered MRIs for me, said, well, um, you know, I we found something on the MRI in the same breast that had had cancer.
Mhm.
So that scared me a lot. And got it biopsied and had several lumpectomies throughout these 5 years. And luckily, it was scar tissue. So I was very lucky. But at that point, I said, you know what? It's Russian roulette. I need to have them removed.
Yeah,
And
that precipitates fear each time you have a lumpectomy.
yes, it does. And, the first time I had the lumpectomy, he didn't get clean margins.
Mhm.
So I had another one. And so there was a lot of disfigurement going on, which is, I think, essential to my art too. So, and, body image issues, things that really affect a lot of people, when they go through this. And, so when I found out that it was a benign mass. Um, I I actually worked with the medical system for 11 months to get the double mastectomy and deep flap procedure. I had doctors writing letter campaigns and, just to insurance to say this is medically necessary. And it turned out that actually doctors who said, well, your breasts are healthy. What's wrong? Why are you doing this? Turns out that my supposedly healthy breast was filled with precancerous cells. So my oncologist said you would have had breast cancer again. So that was the story of self advocacy.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You kept at it, Beth, because you were listening to your voice
That's right.
inside and yet
Mhm.
using your voice externally as a patient advocate to be your own best advocate. That's
That's right.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. So I strongly believe in self-advocacy
Hmm.
because no one knows your body the way you do, you
Yeah.
know? And I mean, doctors have this medical expertise, but when it comes down to it, you need to know, be in tune with your body. And so I was very lucky and glad that I got the deep flap and of course recovery, and then back to exercise and taking care of myself. And I was already taking oil painting classes at the time. I was painting landscapes and other kinds of things, which I still enjoy painting. But I was grappling with this body image issues um, stuff from my lumpectomy
Hmm.
and my multiple lumpectomies actually. And I felt like I needed to just have a cathartic, moment to get that out. I was just doing it for myself. I actually wasn't planning to share it with anyone. And so I enrolled in a nude figure drawing class. And, people are just like, what? You did the what? And I had my sketch pad, and I learned a lot, and I sketched, and I was really more interested, obviously, in the young female figure because it was something I related to. And so, I drew these figures in the class, and then I translated them to oil painting and try to capture the anguish, the uncertainty, all of the moods that happen with breast cancer, which there are so many. I couldn't possibly capture every single thing in a painting. But, so I did those for me. And then, I don't know, like it seems like less than a year ago, I just had a hankering to continue and make this a public series.
Wow. I don't know about you, Beth, but so when did you have your deep flap, by the way?
It was 2006.
Yes, a little bit before mine. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know how you felt, but after I had this surgery, I became so, I don't know if this is the impetus. I think there was different for you, but I became so interested in the human body because
Yeah.
I think we repurposed it to
Mhm.
restore our breast after, what we went through after, having an amputation, which is what a mastectomy is.
That is.
So, well, shall we share your beautiful
Yes.
work? Okay,
Thank you. Yes.
give me a minute and I
Okay.
will pull these up so we can begin sharing. And I will put this into, okay, let me get it. All right. All right. Can you see that, Beth?
Yes, I can.
All right. Now, would you tell me, please, when to advance the slides as you're speaking?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So I decided to name it breast cancer female and young because that's the population I really wanted to focus on. I'm also writing a book on poetry. It's a book of poetry on the young female breast cancer experience. So they kind of almost go together. But so this is the art series. So you can go ahead to the first slide.
Mm,
Yes. So this is diagnosis, and this is a person who has just been diagnosed. The emphasis is on, I try to leave my titles kind of for the viewer to decide
mm,
what she might be thinking. She could be anguished, she could be angry, she could be devastated. All of those things happen, right, with a breast cancer diagnosis. And she's kind of on the pale side because that is a reminder of maybe impending death.
mm,
And so it's a very dismal kind of painting. By the way, that model was one of my favorite ones to paint because the shapes were easier to paint.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on to the next.
Okay. I'm going to comment on this quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh, I felt that way the day of my diagnosis. Well, both diagnoses. I had it twice.
Hmm.
What I see in this, Beth, just as a
Hmm.
comment,
Sure.
is how we have to draw ourselves in. Even though many of us are so fortunate, some, each story is different, but
Right.
many of us are surrounded by people who want to help us, our caregivers.
Hmm.
However, I always say this is such a singular disease and event so many times. And this is what speaks to me. Even though I was so fortunate to have wonderful caregivers and family, I'm speaking to myself about my personal experience.
Right.
I feel this. I feel this, the beauty in this picture. So that's what speaks to me. All right, let's go
Thank
on.
you so much. Yes,
Yeah.
and I do want to say isolation, right, is a very common feeling when you're going
So,
through it.
yes, that's a good word, isolation. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay, this one was inspired actually. What I would do is I'd come home from work
Mm.
and I would continue to work through treatment. But what I did was I was in my car crying a lot at night. And it was the only time I felt, alone, enough comfortable to cry. And and so I just remember thinking, praying to God, but not knowing what I was praying for. I wasn't praying so that I could live. I was just praying, and I felt God's presence saying, whatever happens, live or die, you will be okay. And so that inspired this piece.
Yes. And there are articles on the power of faith, no matter what it is, that women and men draw on when they go through a cancer diagnosis.
Mhm.
So, this is something that even though we feel alone, we can reach out to is that so beautiful, beautiful. And I love the that she's looking upward.
Yes.
That speaks to
Thank
hope.
you.
Okay. Mm,
Thank you.
mm.
This one is prognosis. Um, and this is, of course, I remember the day of prognosis. I'm sure everyone does.
Yeah.
And where you're going to find out if you are going to live, die, or you're not sure what's going to happen. And so she could be, again, I try to leave it open ended so viewers can interpret this, but she could be either relieved and crying from relief, or she could be devastated from the prognosis.
What I see is her holding her head and
Hmm.
how full our heads feel when we get the prognosis, because now we have to learn terms we never knew before.
True.
So much in that photo that can be interpreted.
Yes, absolutely. This one is more recent. I'm still actually tweaking it a bit. I named it Falling. And the reason I named it Falling was, again, to be ambiguous. Is she grieving her lost breasts? Is she grief stricken? Is she just depressed? Is she anxious? We as breast cancer survivors, right, when the time of diagnosis and treatment, there are so many emotions running rampant. It's hard to capture everything.
Oh my.
So, yeah, and up to this point, I had been just profiling the backs of these women.
Mm. I love this. I
Thank
love the
you.
blue surrounding her, almost as if she's floating. I don't know what your idea was
Yeah,
behind that, Beth.
it's supposed to be a blanket, and
A
I have
blanket.
trouble with fabric. So I'm still working on that, but, I just wanted her to be kind of like, almost cuddled in the blanket.
You know what? I love that. I was going to grab mine. I I send I send out a blanket about that color in care packages.
Oh my goodness.
Now I love this photo even more. Oh, I kind of have tears in my eyes.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. And then the
Oh.
last one, this one was done during class,
Mm.
and, it was a chalk pastel from a live model. We only had, like, 40 minutes or so to draw, and, you know, what I decided to do was the next nude that I'm going to do, I'm gonna translate this one into a painting that, shows that she has had treatment from breast cancer, and what I'm going to do is her left breast will be gone with and there will be a scar. So she's had a single mastectomy, and then her she won't have hair, so to indicate that she's been chemo treated. And I think that will speak to people who have dealt with active treatments, it won't be called, of course, Woman Nude and Relaxed, but I'm not sure what the name will be, but again, it will be for the viewer to decide.
You know what?
Hmm.
This is
Yes,
prior. This is prior to our diagnosis and
it is.
to be translated. I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what I did is when I was drawing these female figures, I I was thinking, "Oh, I might translate some things," but I wasn't really even I was really doing it for myself psychotherapy, like to just come to grips with the body image issues that I had.
Mhm.
Um, and now, I decided to take it public.
I'm so glad you did, Beth. What I'm thinking, what would you advise people who are going through such a transformation and who need an outlet? You have chosen different things,
Yes.
writing, art, poetry.
Yes.
Now, I just think you're going to be very famous someday, and you already
Oh, well,
are. You already are in some circles. Uh, but whether that happens or not, what would you
right.
advise people going
Um,
through this?
that's a really good question. I think what makes life meaningful is to tap into one's abilities.
Hmm.
And for some, that might be sports, and maybe jogging or running and competing in 5K races if they can, and for me it's art and writing. But I know that you know whatever talent that a person has, if you use that talent to convey a point and also to just help yourself, whether it's journaling is something I recommend for everyone. It just helps to be able to write your anguish down, and there's a cathartic release
Hmm.
of that. So, whatever activity that takes you outside of yourself is something that I think I would recommend. I mean, a breast cancer diagnosis is very upsetting and earth-shattering, so as you know, and so it takes a while to kinda get the momentum, and, it's not like, "Oh, I was diagnosed, now I'm gonna paint a picture," but but just to do some soul searching, to reach out. I think
Yeah.
reaching out to other advocates and support personnel is so crucial.
Yeah. Well, I like your message because what speaks to me is that when you have a diagnosis, you are identified in a different way as a person,
Yes.
not
Yes.
something maybe you chose to do or liked, but take that piece of your person that you had, that you have
Mhm.
before the diagnosis, during the diagnosis, after the diagnosis, writer, runner, baker, whatever it is, and use that to step outside of what has affected you with breast cancer and develop that as a cathartic experience. And I'm going to tell people to get that pen and pick it up. Just start. Just
Right.
start. I love the journaling idea, Beth, because sometimes if you haven't written before or you're afraid of putting something down, just start.
True.
Yeah.
That's the hard part is, when you're so feeling so isolated and thrown down by a diagnosis and treatment of breast cancer, it's hard to rise up, but, you know, rising up is what we need to do in order to make ourselves feel better and also to possibly have an impact on others.
Yes. And you have. I can't wait
Thank
to
you.
I can't wait to get this published, Beth. And I'm just so graced by your presence and your time today. So thank you so much for joining us again. I'm with Beth Gainer, and we are excited to share her artwork. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.